Thank you. Good morning, council members, state officials and representatives, and members of the public. I'd like to call the October 1st meeting of the Social Equity Council to order. It is now 10 a.m. This time I'll call the roll. Councilman Abercrombie. Councilman Betts.
Present.
Councilwoman Borges.
Present.
Great, thank you. I am here. Councilman Gaddis.
Here.
Councilwoman Hawkins.
Present.
Councilman Jefferson.
Present.
Councilman Karpowitz.
Present.
Councilman Medina advised us that
Present.
he's here. Great. Councilwoman Name. Councilman Shirley.
Present.
Councilwoman Skyers Thomas.
Present.
Councilwoman Valeries. And Councilman Walton. Great, we have a quorum. Councilwoman Gordon has advised me that she is not renewing her term on the Social Equity Council, and I know the speaker is working on a successor for her. That said, I will miss her commitment to this work and her passion for underserved communities. And I hope my council colleagues will join me in thanking her for her service and wishing her well. Our first item on the agenda is approval of the September 3rd, 2024 meeting minutes. May I have a motion?
So move. Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. Our next item is to go into executive session to discuss pending litigation. May I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. You should have received a separate invite for the executive session. Please leave the Zoom meeting and follow the Teams link to members of the public. We appreciate your patience and will return shortly. Thank you to the public for your patience. I will recall the roll. Councilman Abercrombie. Councilman Betts.
Present. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Councilwoman Borges. Councilwoman Borges.
Here.
Thank you. I am here. Councilman Gaddis.
Here.
Councilwoman Hawkins.
Present.
Councilman Jefferson.
Present.
Councilman Karpowitz.
Present.
Councilman Medina. Councilwoman Name. Councilman Shirley.
Present.
Councilwoman Skyers Thomas.
Present.
Councilwoman Valeries.
Present.
Councilman Walton. Councilman Walton.
Present.
Thank you. Okay, we have a quorum. Our next agenda item is a vote on equity joint venture application AMHF 0004030 for Leaf CT. May I have a motion?
So
Move to approve.
And second.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. Next on the agenda is the Executive Director's Report, so I turn it over to E.D. McGee.
Thank you, Chairwoman Comer. And again, good morning to you, the council, general public, and elected officials. Can you all believe it's been literally a month since our last meeting, and a lot has happened since we last met. I have been in touch with many of you to better understand your roles, responsibilities, and your passion for this work and your service you are doing to support the mission of the Social Equity Council. As I continue alongside the staff here and you, the council, realign SEC's organizational structure, I appreciate your willingness to embrace what I refer to as the recalibration and recommitment to our organizational roles, the SEC and the council, and more to come on that. For the sake of our broader community listening today, of whom I'm sure there are a lot, and to somewhat reintroduce the Connecticut Social Equity Council, the mission, and I have to toggle between my screens. Anna, do you mind putting up the PowerPoint really quickly? Thank you. Just want to, there we go. The mission of the Social Equity Council is essentially to ensure that individuals and communities disproportionately affected by the war on drugs have equitable access to the cannabis industry and to support economic reinvestment in those targeted communities. And essentially by living out our mission and strategic commitment as part of our efforts to respond to the war on drugs and its impact on individuals and communities, we will and we shall advance equity and social and economic mobility in Connecticut through our 3 premier programs, of which many of you are familiar with. And again, this is more of a reintroduction for our broader community. Our first program, we have our Community Reinvestment Program. Our second program, our Revolving Loan Fund, and the Accelerator Program / Workforce Development. And to this end, today, I also would like to take a moment to reintroduce the SEC team. We have, and if you don't mind, Anna, if you can just drop that PowerPoint so that folks can see the faces. We have Anna Rosa, who is our major person here helping out with all things related to SEC, my administrative assistant, Anna Rosa, if you can just wave your hand. Christina Diamond, who serves as our legislative and communications manager. Vera Limbrick, she is our community reinvestment manager. Tiffany Rujo, she's not with us today. She's on maternity leave, but she is our manager for the Workforce Development Program. And special shout out to OWS for sharing such great talent with us. Jennifer Edwards, L. Edwards, she is our project manager for our Canna Business Revolving Loan Program. Jennifer Stevens, she is our staff accountant. And then we have Karen Colbutt, she's our paralegal. If you want to bring, actually don't bring the screen up yet. As part of my 30-day progress update, I do want to kick off with, we've hired our new legal director, Madi Colazo Cruz, who I am extremely proud to have on our team. Welcome to the team, Madi. And if you want to just wave your hand, there you go. If you want to say something, feel free. This is your moment to shine. She's like, I'm okay. Great. So glad to have you. If you can bring the PowerPoint back up, greatly appreciate it. So really quickly, I'm going to go through my 30-day highlights. I'm going to share, obviously, our finance budget. I want to talk a little bit about our key performance indicators, talk about the council, our governance and compliance, and then moving forward. So I'll do my best to keep everything brief, but I just want you all to give me a little grace to share with you and provide you with some updates. So within my 30-day updates here, there's been quite a bit of movement and conversation and meetings. And so really quickly, I want to give you a deeper update on each of our programs and where we stand. Starting with our revolving loan program, our Canna Business Loan Program, we have a total of 18 enterprises, 18 social equity applicants with a total request of over $7 million within our revolving loan program. And as you all know, per statute, this program is to support social equity applicants that have completed our Workforce / Accelerator Program and providing them with startup costs and loan opportunities to help advance the building out of their businesses. As you all are very aware, we are taking a hard look at our Cannabusiness revolving loan program to ensure that we are remaining true to equity. We are remaining true to supporting all of our equity clients, but you all know we also are responsible for a large amount of money, and we want to make sure that we're making the best decisions in support of our social equity applicants. So more to come on the revolving loan program. I would be remiss, though, if I did not thank DECD, the Department of Community Economic and Community Development, for their support in helping us to streamline our process and also to ensure that our workflow is top notch and that we're providing customer service to our social equity applicants. Next slide, please. Our next program is the Community Reinvestment Program. Currently, we are re-evaluating the Community Reinvestment Pilot Program that will inform our next steps with the reallocation of the funds that we currently have in our budget, of which I will discuss during the appropriate time. This review of our Community Reinvestment Program consists of reviewing and synthesizing data from community convenings, feedback from our legislative leaders, specifically the Black Puerto Rican Caucus, and data research that supports our focus areas. Oftentimes, I've been saying this, and my staff will probably get tired of me saying it, we have a lot of money, but we don't have a lot of money. And so one of the things that we want to do within our Community Reinvestment Program is we want greater impact in areas that require more financial investments, but also creates opportunities for us to leverage existing projects within our disproportionately impacted areas, better known as our DIAs. We'll also provide funding for impactful programs whose mission is to support early childhood, education, reintegration of formerly incarcerated, justice-impacted individuals, health and human services, and opportunities for capacity and organizational development of community-based organizations located in targeted communities. Again, we will continue to reassess and realign our community investment program so that we have a better understanding of the dollars that we are spending in disproportionately impacted areas. So more to come on that. Next slide, please. Our Workforce Development Accelerator Program. As we all discussed during our last meeting, we are reassessing our partnerships. We are reassessing our workforce development program, and you all know that this program is being led currently by one of our own, Vera Limbrick, who has stepped in while our program manager is on maternity leave. But the community, workforce development program essentially will partner with Office of Workforce Strategies. Kelly, so glad to have you on this council and your thought leadership in this work. We will also collaborate with the cannabis industry and some of our businesses, our enterprises who are already in this space, who could help us inform strategies as we continue to onboard individuals interested in this industry. But one of the things that I really want to hone in on is we've got to be intentional about making our connections with regional sector partners within the state of Connecticut. And just to give you a little insight on regional sector partnerships, this will serve as an industry-driven platform to align business leaders, public partners, i.e. education, workforce, economic development, our community partners, around the needs of the industry that we support so dearly, and tackling shared priorities that increase the industry competitiveness and expand access to good jobs right here in the state of Connecticut. So as you can imagine, as we are realigning and rebuilding, we really want to leverage homegrown opportunities. And so we have the Connecticut College School System with many of their certificate programs, not limited to, but we want to provide scholarships for individuals who are interested in taking advantage of those opportunities. So that's our workforce development accelerator program as of today. Our next slide, please. Legislative updates. As a former legislator, I always get excited about the legislative session. Now that I'm on the other side, if you would, on the executive side, I get a little nervous now. Nervous in a good sense that I have an opportunity not only to engage with my former colleagues, but I have an opportunity to legislatively advance the mission in partnership with the Office of the Governor, in partnership with our council and our community partners, to advance some policy that we have discussed within our council, requiring cannabis businesses to submit a 1-year impact report of their social equity and workforce development plans. As you all know, currently in statute, we are requiring that many of these enterprises provide us with a 6-month update as to where they stand with what they included in their social equity plans and in their workforce development plans. As you all know, currently, there is really no real mechanism to enforce or to even ascertain where many of these businesses are based on their report, their plans. And so we want to really figure out how can we, in a measurable way, support businesses, but also hold businesses accountable to what it is that they shared with us in their initial plans. Currently, we're also reviewing legislative recommendations that were outlined in the Comptroller's report, of which many of you have been privy to. If you have not, our team will be sure to provide you with those updates and a link to the PDF file. So I'm going to take a moment just to breathe for a second and get some water, but through you, Madam Chair, I just want to pause and ask, do we have any questions on the information that I've shared thus far before I transition? Feel free to drop the PowerPoint.
Any questions from my council colleagues?
And again, a lot of these narratives I will share immediately following the meeting.
Like we're good.
Cool. Let's bring up the PowerPoint again. All right. So one of the things, one of many things, I took a look at our finances, our programs, as you can see, and I wanted to know how things were actually running, get under the hood. And again, I work alongside some really amazing and talented people that are committed to the mission of the organization. I reevaluated our organizational chart to reassess vacancies and recruitment of new talent, identified and prioritized a ton of pain points, as you all can imagine, with various social equity applicants. And also, I've interfaced with many of my commissioner friends through our interagency discussions to really support efficiencies, and also dug a little bit on many of our social equity plans and our workforce development plans. And one of the major findings in our Comptroller's report was really to increase transparency and remove vagueness in the current review process of many of our plans. And one of the things that I thought was really, really important was really to identify a research quality analysis person who could come on board and help us out in that effort. So in a nutshell, a lot has happened in 30 days, and I'm really pleased where we are and where we're going. So Anna, if you can pull up our budget, I want to jump right into the meat and potatoes of what a lot of folks want to see and hear about. I believe the council, you all have a copy of this budget. Again, I will share budget narratives immediately following this meeting. But I do want to take a moment just to kind of walk us through this budget. It is extremely important to note that this dynamic budget is a living document that includes the Social Equity Council's statutory obligations and contractual recommendations that will support the implementation of our strategic management plan and the development of a 3-year strategic plan. I will again provide you with a brief overview of the budget and narratives for some of the items. I think a lot of our personnel is self-explanatory. If not, I am available to answer any questions after this. But specifically, I want to call your attention to a few line items within our statutory obligations, of which I will provide greater detail on these areas as they are critical to the social equity programs. So give me a second. I'm toggling between 2 screens here. I just want to pull up my notes. Okay. So line 8, where it says social equity application verification. Just to give the world some insight on what that actually means, currently we are in contract, a master contract with a consultant by the name of ConResnick, of which they're very familiar with state service. ConResnick provides us with the verification of all of our social equity applications to ensure that residency is in place, to ensure that the income is where it needs to be, and provide both the council and the Social Equity Council, the agency, with feedback as we support many of these folks pursuing their licensures. And so you'll notice that $441,000 there. We have allocated in that particular line item a substantial amount as we are forecasting perhaps a lottery. We don't know, but we want to be prepared. And so we've allocated those funds to ensure that we have ample resources to support that. I also want to bring your attention to line items 10, which is community reinvestment, accelerator program, as well as our workforce development program. Starting with our community reinvestment, as I've already shared with you, we are reassessing the pilot program that was underway about a year ago. Myself and Vera Limbrick, our community manager, in partnership with many of our grant makers that participated in our initial pilot of the program, of about $6 million that we were able to provide via our 6 grant makers throughout the state of Connecticut who supported local community-based organizations. We're taking a hard look at that. And we really want to make sure that our expectations are clear, that we have a system in place that is transparent, that is accountable, and we're also measuring our success. But I will say this. 5.6 million is not nearly enough to support the war on drugs and its impact on many of the disproportionate communities throughout the state of Connecticut. But we're so fortunate that we at least have some resources to continue the work that we're doing. And we have an opportunity to return to the legislature to request additional funds to support the reintroduction of the Community Reinvestment Program in fiscal years 26 and 27. Again, we will be in constant communication with all of our partners. That includes the legislature, our community stakeholders, the council, the governor's office, just to name a few. Moving on to line item 11. We have our accelerator program in line item 12, our workforce development. Specifically within our workforce development program, we figured that we wanted to identify or provide scholarships to 30 applicants who might be interested in this opportunity to really expose themselves to the industry. And, give or take, just plain and simple numbers, 30 applicants at about $10,000 per person will bring us to about $300,000. That is a sufficient amount of resources to pilot a workforce development program that we will create in the coming days in partnership with so many other partners that would help us to execute this work. And then, you go down to our contractual obligations where you'll see consultant services and line items 14, 15, 18, and 19. I will take each line item specifically, quickly, just run through those items so that you'll have some context, even for the broader community to understand where we're going. Does someone have a question? Sorry, I'm not actually looking at the screen.
Councilman Jefferson.
Sorry. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Mr. Executive Director, did I hear you correctly when you said that with community, in regards to community reinvestment, that you have a plan for 26, 27 fiscal years? Is there any plan for 25?
Just to reiterate, and I appreciate your question, Counselor, and through you, Madam Chair, today we do not have a solid plan. We have ideas, and we want to be able to draft those ideas in a way that is shareable with the council so that we can either do one of two things. We can build upon where we left off, or we could reassess, of which we're doing, our current program so that we could have more transparency moving forward, and that plan is inclusive of feedback from the council and all of our stakeholders. So in fiscal years 26 and 27, we have financial obligations, but in terms of a solid, concrete plan that is inclusive of all of our partners, I cannot stand before you today and say that that plan is well flushed out.
And the plan isn't flushed out for 26 and 27 either then, right?
I'm not understanding your question.
Well, you mentioned that the community reinvestment, it sounds as if it will continue in 26 and 27, but I'm asking about 25, fiscal year 25. Are you suggesting we don't have any ideas? We don't have a boilerplate? We have nothing to move that along? I'm trying to understand why community reinvestment is not being considered for fiscal year 25.
Let me clarify for you. We have 5.6 million budgeted for fiscal year 2025. That's
Okay.
this year. And so before we move in haste, and we have 6 grant makers ready to receive money to provide RFPs to many of our community-based organizations that have already submitted plans, we want to take a step back to reassess our current infrastructure that really does not exist in terms of how we are to manage the 5.6 million. We also want to take into consideration a lot of feedback from the examinations report, feedback from our grant makers who have provided us with substantial and critical feedback, so that instead of just putting money out and then having to come back to fix all over again for fiscal years 26 and 27, we want to make sure we're taking a hard look, both internally in terms of Social Equity Council and our staff, and then also as we move forward in partnership with many of our grant makers so that we're all on the same page moving forward. So we do in fact have a plan, but again, as you can imagine, as a new ED coming in, we want to make sure we're dotting I's and crossing T's, and that we're running this 5.6 million as a precursor to what we plan to do in fiscal years 26 and 27.
Yeah. Here's a follow-up. We had 22 million that was supposed to go out in 24. what happened to the 22 million? I know you have the 5.6 budgeted for 25. I don't know what's budgeted for 26, 27. I haven't seen the projected tax revenues for
Yeah.
those years. So what happened to the 22 million that was supposed to go out in 24?
So let me just provide some more context, and I appreciate this conversation, and I think it's a good and healthy one. We have a total of 34 million in the Social Innovation Fund. As you all can imagine, I don't want to lead with 34 million and exhaust every single dime we have in our coffers. And so one of the things that I'm doing right now is, instead of putting $22 million out on the street, of which we've been asked to put a pause on, we're going to deal with fiscal year 25 right now and figure out how to effectively, in a really impactful way, spend $5.6 million. We've not lost any money, Counselor, in terms of what we have currently. We have 34 million. And within that 34 million, we're drawing down on 5.6 million for this fiscal year.
Yeah, we had 34 million. 12 million was supposed to go to the executive branch, to the governor, based on his request. And that's what left us with the 22 million. And that 12 million was supposed to be divided up for initiatives that were very important to the governor and his office. And that left us with the 22 million. And so now I just want to be clear. So we're taking 5.6 million and divvying that up, and that's going to the community. That's supposed to go to the community for fiscal year 25.
If I may, just because Executive Director McGee was not here when this budget was approved, our biennial budget for FY24 and FY25 was approved by the legislature at the previous session, right? So that $5.6 million was always that line item in the FY25 budget. And so the 22 million and the 12 million were in that Social Equity and Innovation Fund, and this line item has always been there. Moreover, if I can just remind this council that we had conversations about having a strategic planning process during which we would get information from our external stakeholders, as well as conversations amongst this council, to determine the best way for a reinvestment plan to carry forward. That we had started that work. It's also been sort of double clicked by the comptroller's report, which requested that we develop a strategic plan before we send any money out into the community.
I was holding any additional questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. And just to move along, and I appreciate the conversation, going back to the contractual obligations or recommendations we have here, really quickly, as already mentioned, the comptroller's feedback examination really underscored a lot of the council's input, oversight, compliance, governance. So it was really just reminding us of a lot of what you all have been saying for a while. And so one of the things that we want to do is spend some of our resources to assist us with marketing, consulting outreach, of which would include identifying systems that would help us to professionalize the work that we're doing. Line item 15, we're going to have to go through a rebranding exercise and really work on some strategic messaging, et cetera. So you'll see line 15. And then going down to line item 19, we have our consultant services that deal a lot with the development of our strategic 3-year strategic plan. If you can scroll up, there you go. Our strategic plan, of which we have $150,000 allocated to that. I'll stop there. Those were some of the main highlights that I wanted to provide within this budget. Again, I will provide you all with budget narratives. So if any of you have any other questions, you can feel free to reach out to me and provide your insights. I am open to any conversation. I always tell my staff, I don't care who you are, you should always be in a learning posture, especially when you're working alongside other professionals who volunteer their time and support our mission. So you can drop the budget. And lastly, because I know you all are probably tired of hearing my voice, I do want to end off by just talking about three other really cool key areas. You know, using SMART goals, many of you, if you're organizational wonkies, Andrea Hawkins and others, you'd appreciate, you know, a lot of the work that we're doing. We want to make sure that it's measurable. We want to make sure that we're moving towards success and utilizing SMART goals or key performance indicators. It's extremely important to us because we also, not only do we want to respond to some of the perceptions that might be floating around the world here in Connecticut, we want to make sure that everything that we're done is being driven by, again, some of the legislative and organizational recommendations provided by the Office of the Comptroller's Examination. But we also want to include the skill set, the talent, the innovation from both our staff and all of the partners that help to make this work at the Social Equity successful. The council, I can't say this enough. You know, one of the things that I shared with Chairwoman Comer and many of you in conversation, our goal is to clarify our roles, set clear expectations. Again, you all volunteer your time, and I don't think the world, Connecticut, understands the amount of time you all put in to ensure that compliance and the governance of the SEC is in good standing. And I can't thank y'all enough for that. But we want to make sure that expectations are consistent across our organization, as well as our board or the council. We want to ensure that core values and the purpose of the council are understood by both my staff and you all. And we will do that by increasing, you know, our communication of reporting and meeting with members of the council outside of these, I call them lights, camera, action, you know, getting to know you all in a greater way and inviting you all to our office so that you can meet us and really, really see all of the great work that we're doing. And then lastly, y'all, and I mean this, lastly, moving forward, our next steps are to clearly define, meaning develop and implement a strategic management and a 3-year strategic plan. So you'll see a lot of movement on your calendars, invites to participate in conversations, focus groups. So we're going to need you. And there's going to be a lot of work from today until December. So I know vacations are coming up, families are coming up, but please let them know that you will continue to support the Social Equity Council. And again, thank y'all for your support through you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, E.T. McKee. I don't see committee reports on the agenda, but I welcome any updates from committee chairs as part of the good of the order. Or not. Okay. Is there anything else for the good of the order?
Yes, Madam Chair. This is Councilmember Jefferson. I do, through you, as far as the Comptroller's report is concerned, in my own opinion, I do think, and I have to say this, that it, in light of the report and the recommendations and the overall report itself, I think it vindicated the previous executive director, and that's no slight to our present executive director, who I think is going to do an outstanding job. And it also vindicated the council because we were under a lot of scrutiny, and I received the recommendations from the comptroller's office. In fact, I think those recommendations could apply to every state agency out there. The second thing I want to say is that we may have certain luxuries on this council in terms of developing a strategic plan, but I can assure you that Black and brown communities do not have the luxury of waiting for a strategic plan to receive much needed dollars. I don't have to tell you what's going on in the cities across this state. We are in desperate need in the grassroots for funding for a variety of programs to address many of these socioeconomic issues that are impacting our young people. And we just don't have that luxury to wait. I mean, this summer was critical in every major city in this state.
Councilman Jefferson, you were breaking up, at least. I don't know if it's everybody, but at least for me.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So whatever we have to do to expedite matters, I just encourage us to do that. That's it. That's for my good of the order. Thank you. Through you.
Thank you, Councilman Jefferson. And while I certainly understand and appreciate the sense of urgency, I'm also aware that there are dollars coming from the state and that have previously come from the federal government into our communities. So I say that just to say I know that we are not the only source of revenue for these communities in need. And while, again, I understand the urgency, I think that a strategic planning process is necessary to ensure, A, that we are doing everything in the spirit of full transparency, and that we will be beyond reproach, so that we don't find ourselves where we were under so much scrutiny. Anything
Madam
else?
Chairwoman,
Yes.
if there's no further business, I move to adjourn.
Thank you,
I
Councilman
second.
Gaddis. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All righty. Have a lovely day.
Bye, everyone.